This is World of Tank News, January 31st, 2021. I apologize if you cannot see the video that I'm playing. So basically, Project 42 did a question and answer. I'm going to tell you what they spoke about. They mentioned three maps. He mentioned South Coast, Stalingrad, and Northwest as maps that he wanted to bring back into the game. And he did mention that Stalingrad, the anniversary of the tank battle is next year, so they did want to try and bring it back around next year. He mentioned something about a 7x7 mode, which will become a permanent mode. I believe it was called, I don't remember, it was called Battle something. A new autoloader mechanic. He said that in the Steel Hunter mode, if you get one of the French tanks, it has some sort of a rapid fire gun that fires faster as you unload more rounds. And he mentioned that as something that they would bring into the game. Larger maps. He said that a lot of people ask for larger maps. He mentioned 1,000 by 1,000 and 1,200 by 1,200, but he didn't say what size these larger maps would be. He only mentioned tier 8, 9, and 10. He mentioned an AI system. He said that players like to play against AI and not against other players, and that they were interested in doing something to try and bring that because it would bring the game to a wider audience. He mentioned a player training system. As you know, there's some sort of a training session you go through, and they give you a little bit of reward, and they tell you drive here, drive there, shoot at this, shoot at that. He said they want to do something that's a lot more advanced for player training, but I don't know what it was. He mentioned ranked battles, a change with the TD ranking. So as you know, they have different roles for every class of tank. And he said that they wanted to divide TDs into three. Unfortunately, he only mentioned two. I only understood two because it is in Russian. He mentioned fast mobile tanks, and he mentioned strongly armored tanks. I don't know what the third class was. He did talk about preferential tanks. He was referring to the matchmaking. There's some vehicles, for example, in IS-6, you might not get matched against certain higher tiers. And I don't know what change he was talking about making, but he did say that it was something that they were talking about. So, turbo battles. A turbo battle means a battle that ends very quickly, perhaps 15-0. They created this problem many years ago. The games were a lot slower, and then they made all the corridor maps, and now everybody rushes to the battle position immediately, and then they just start fighting. And it was in part because of the artillery, but it was also because what would happen is the scouts would go out and scout everybody. Everybody would set up in a sniping position and shoot at everyone, and everybody was afraid to go to the middle of the map, the midpoint where you have to engage in battle. So they made everything like a corridor so that you could no longer spot, you could no longer snipe. The SPG was ineffective at the beginning of the game. And then you have what's called the turbo battle, which means everyone gets into battle very quickly, and you've got a lot of battles that in 3 minutes one side is dominating the other. They created this problem. We know what the solution is. Get rid of the corridor maps. Nobody likes it. He mentioned Soapy Rocks. Now, a lot of these things they've mentioned over and over again, probably for more than a year. Soapy Rock means when you get on a rock surface and all of a sudden you can't control yourself, your vehicle starts sliding. He said it's a problem with the Havoc game engine, and he said that they're literally considering suing Havoc because it's the only way they think they can get them to do something about it. He mentioned Crew 2.0. He said that there's something incomplete about Crew 2.0. They were not able to implement everything. And he mentioned something, I don't know what it was. You've got skills and perks, and he used a word that I never heard before, which I'm going to guess is a perk. But he said that it was incomplete, and some of the features did not translate to Crew 2.0. And he said we have to convince the developers that we want everything to be complete. He said something like that. So something else he mentioned was armor-piercing HE rounds. And, the HE rounds right now are not armor piercing, they're just high explosives. It's like a canister that explodes upon impact. I'm guessing that an armor piercing has some sort of a warhead that has a shape to it that can pierce the armor. There's different type of rounds. You've got some where it's just a mass, and because it's just a solid mass of material, it damages the vehicle. And then you've got some that have chemicals in it. You've got some that have explosives in it. You've got some that have shrapnel in it. So I'm guessing it's some sort of an HE round that can pierce the armor of the vehicle is something that they're considering. He talked about landmines a lot, but obviously landmines are not in the game. And he said something about the vehicles are not designed to be in games that have landmines. I'm not sure exactly what he was referring to. I would assume it has to do with either the tracks or the Under Armour. And obviously, landmines were available in some of the game modes, such as Homefront. At least the original Homefront, you definitely had landmines. Then he mentioned the Object 780. Now, I'm going to tell you, when he mentioned the Object 780, he said like 5 or 6 words, and that was it. He basically said, "Oh, the Object 780, what a great tank." And then he just moved on. He really didn't elaborate. So there was a lot more discussion. It's on Project 42 question and answer. He did say that he felt that they were short on staff, that they wanted to release videos more often. They need a video editor. The staff is incomplete. And he mentioned something about a streaming language. I'm guessing he is interested in moving beyond the Russian language. It is in Russian, and you do have to do a lot of care with translating everything. He also mentioned researching Italian vehicles. He was talking about wheeled vehicles. And I think he said that the top tier wheeled vehicles were pretty good, but in general, he was not happy with the wheeled vehicles. Now, so just so you know, these are the people that research all the vehicles. So this is where you find out all the vehicles that are going to be coming in the game. For example, British wheeled medium tanks, the South African SPG, which you can play as a tank destroyer, which also has wheels. And he did the German wheeled vehicles, the Russian wheeled vehicles. They talk a lot about wheeled vehicles over the last year. He mentioned something about a Czechoslovakian, maybe a Tier 10 heavily armored tank. And, there were a few other things. I didn't write everything down, but that kind of wraps it up for this episode. If you have any questions or comments, please post below.